When Ethan Brooks spotted the hooded figure breaking into the CEO's office that Monday night, he had no idea he was about to uncover the most dangerous conspiracy in corporate America. Claire Whitmore thought she could trust her charming CFO, Miles Hart, but she was dead wrong, and now both her empire and Ethan's life hung in the balance. What started as a simple warning, whispered in the shadows, would explode into a web of planted evidence, corporate betrayal, and a love so forbidden it could destroy them both. But when the boardroom doors finally closed for the ultimate confrontation, only one question remained. Who would emerge victorious, and who would lose everything they'd ever fought for? If you're ready to dive into this heart-pounding story of love, betrayal, and justice, hit that subscribe button and tell me where you're watching from. I read every single comment. The security badge beeped twice against the lobby scanner. Ethan Brooks shifted his cleaning cart closer to the turnstile and nodded at Marco behind the front desk. "Evening, Marco. Another quiet Monday night, I hope." Marco looked up from his phone and grinned. "Hey, Ethan. Should be pretty calm tonight. Most of the big shots cleared out by 7. He glanced at the visitor log. "Though we had some late VIP thing earlier. Fancy badges and suits, you know how it is." Ethan pushed his cart toward the service elevator. The metal wheels squeaked against the marble floor. His back still ached from yesterday's double shift, but rent was due Thursday. Missing even one night wasn't an option. The elevator doors slid open with a soft ding. Ethan rolled his cart inside and pressed the button for the 15th floor. As the doors started to close, a hand shot through the gap. "Hold up," a voice said. A man in a dark hoodie slipped into the elevator. He wore a visitor badge clipped to his jacket, but something felt off. The badge was blue instead of red, and after 9 p.m., all visitor badges should be red. Ethan had learned that during his first week on the job 6 months ago. The man kept his head down. His hood was pulled up even though it wasn't cold outside. He smelled like expensive cologne mixed with nervous sweat. "What floor?" Ethan asked. 15, the man said without looking up. The elevator hummed upward. 15 floors of silence. Ethan stared at the numbers climbing slowly. 3, 4, 5. His stomach tightened. Why would a visitor need the executive floor this late? And why the wrong badge color? The man shifted on his feet. His eyes darted toward the elevator camera, then quickly away. He checked his watch twice in 10 seconds. When the doors opened, the man stepped out first. He walked fast toward the main corridor, pulling his hood lower. Ethan watched him disappear around the corner before pushing his cart toward the conference rooms. Something wasn't right. But then again, it wasn't his business either. Ethan had learned to stay invisible in places like this. Rich people had their own rules. Rich people had their own problems. And when things went wrong, guys like him usually got blamed first. He plugged in his earbuds and started cleaning. 30 minutes later, Ethan was emptying trash cans near the large conference room when he heard it. A soft scraping sound. Like someone moving furniture, but careful. Too careful. He pulled out one earbud and listened. The sound came again. Definitely from inside the conference room. Ethan's hands went cold. The room should be empty. He'd cleaned it yesterday after the quarterly planning meeting. Nobody worked here this late unless something big was happening. He turned off his cart's vacuum and crept closer to the door. The frosted glass panels let in shadows but no clear shapes. Then he saw movement. Someone was crouched near the presentation table. The same hooded figure from the elevator. Ethan's heart hammered against his ribs. He should walk away, pretend he never saw anything. Call security from downstairs and let them handle it. But he couldn't move. Not yet. The man stood up and moved to a wall panel near the projection screen. He pulled out a small device. It looked like a phone, but thicker. He held it against the panel for several seconds, then photographed something on the table. Papers. A thick packet with tabs sticking out. Ethan squinted through the glass. He could just make out words on one of the tabs. Vendor realignment. Whitmore. The man gathered the papers carefully, arranging them exactly as he'd found them. Then he moved toward the door. Ethan ducked behind his cart and held his breath. The man emerged from the conference room and headed toward the CEO corridor, toward Claire Whitmore's private office. This was bad, really bad. But if Ethan reported it, who would they believe? A night janitor with a criminal record? Or whatever story the hooded man would tell. Ethan had been down this road before. 3 years ago, his last job, someone had stolen cash from a register during his shift. Security cameras were broken that night. Ethan got fired anyway. His supervisor said he fit the profile. He'd sworn he would never put himself in that position again. But as he watched the man use a key card to enter Claire Whitmore's office, something inside Ethan snapped. This wasn't about him anymore. Someone was stealing from these people, and wrong was wrong. He needed to find Ms. Whitmore. Fast. The executive floor seemed enormous when you were trying not to make noise. Ethan left his cart by the conference room and moved toward the elevator bank. Most of the offices were dark. A few had security lights glowing near the doors. He checked his watch. 11:10 p.m. If Ms. Whitmore was still in the building, she'd probably be on a lower floor, maybe working late in one of the smaller meeting rooms. The sound of heels on marble made him freeze. Someone was coming up the main stairwell. The footsteps were quick but tired. Definitely a woman. Ethan stepped into the shadow of a large plant near the executive kitchenette. A moment later, Claire Whitmore appeared at the top of the stairs. Her suit jacket was gone, and she carried her high heels in one hand. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a messy bun. She looked exhausted. She walked toward her office, then stopped. Her head tilted like she'd heard something. This was it. Ethan stepped out of the shadows. "Ma'am," he whispered. Claire spun around. Her blue eyes were wide with surprise and something that might have been fear. "Who?" She stopped when she saw his uniform. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. "You're maintenance, right? It's very late to be." "Ma'am," Ethan interrupted, keeping his voice low. "Someone is inside your office, not staff, not security." Claire's expression shifted from tired confusion to sharp attention. "What do you mean?" "I saw a man go in. He has a key card, but he's not supposed to be here. He was in the conference room first, taking pictures of documents. Something about vendor realignment." Claire's face went pale. She looked toward her office corridor. Through the frosted glass wall, they could both see a shadow moving inside her office. "Stay behind me," she whispered. She pulled out her phone and sent a quick text. Then she started walking toward her office. Ethan followed, his mouth dry as sand. They stopped outside her office door. Claire inserted her keycard with steady hands, but Ethan could see the muscle in her jaw twitching. She turned the handle slowly. The door was unlocked from the inside. Claire pushed it open fast. The hooded man spun toward them. For a split second, they all stared at each other. Then the man bolted toward a side door that led to the back corridor. Ethan lunged forward to block his path, but the man was faster. He shouldered past Ethan and disappeared through the door. "Don't follow him," Claire said sharply. Footsteps echoed down the back stairwell, getting farther away. Marco appeared in the main doorway, breathing hard. "Miss Whitmore? Got your text. What's the situation?" "Someone broke into my office," Claire said. She was already checking her desk. "He's gone now, down the back stairs." Marco spoke into his radio, calling for building security to check the exits and review the camera feeds. Claire opened her desk drawers one by one. Nothing seemed missing. But when she looked at the conference table in her office, where she kept sensitive board materials, her face tightened. "The vendor packet," she said quietly. "It's been moved." She looked at Ethan, really looked at him for the first time. Her eyes were intelligent and direct. "What's your name?" "Ethan." "I'm Claire," she paused. Thank you. The words hit Ethan harder than he expected. When was the last time someone like her had thanked him for anything? Marco finished with security and turned to them. We found a torn visitor sticker by the back exit. No sign of the guy. But there's something else. He held up a phone case, black plastic with a distinctive logo, a stylized H in gold letters. Claire took the phone case and studied it. Hart Financial Services, she read. Miles's vendor. Her face went very still. Miles Hart was the company's chief financial officer. Ethan had seen him around the building, tall, polished, always smiling. We need to talk, Claire said, privately. Marco nodded. I'll finish up the security report downstairs. Take your time. When they were alone, Claire locked her office door and sat down heavily in her chair. She gestured for Ethan to sit across from her. Tell me exactly what you saw. Everything. Ethan described the elevator encounter, the conference room surveillance, and the route to her office. He spoke slowly and clearly, the way he'd learned to talk to police officers and social workers. Stick to facts, don't guess, don't exaggerate. Claire listened, without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. The vendor packet, she said finally. I need to check something. She pulled out a thick folder and flipped through it. Her hands started to shake. What is it? Ethan asked. Claire looked up at him. Her professional mask was slipping. Underneath, she looked young and scared. 6 months ago, I made a mistake, a big one. I altered some numbers in a vendor report to make things look better than they were. I was terrified of disappointing the board, disappointing my father. She closed the folder. If someone has proof of what I did, they could destroy me, destroy the company. Ethan felt something shift in his chest. She was trusting him with this. A woman he'd met 20 minutes ago was telling him secrets that could ruin her life. Why are you telling me this? Claire met his eyes. Because you saved me tonight, and because... She hesitated. Because you have more integrity in your little finger than most of the people I work with every day. The words hung in the air between them. Ethan felt exposed, like she could see right through him. If this comes back on me, he said quietly. If someone tries to blame me for what happened tonight. I'll speak up, Claire said immediately. I promise. They sat in silence for a moment. The city sparkled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, so many lights. So many people living their own complicated lives. It's late, Claire said. You should go home. I can finish my shift. No, go home. I'll handle this with security. Ethan stood up. At the door, he turned back. Ms. Whitmore? Claire. Whatever you did 6 months ago, it doesn't make what happened tonight okay. Someone's trying to hurt you, and that's not right. Claire's eyes filled with something that might have been tears. Thank you, Ethan. In the elevator down to the lobby, Ethan's hands were still shaking. He'd stepped into something way bigger than cleaning offices and emptying trash cans. But for the first time in years, he didn't regret it. Outside, Claire's black BMW was parked in the executive section. She was waiting by the driver's door, her suit jacket back on. I'll drive you home, she said. You don't have to. It's late, and after what happened tonight, I don't want you walking alone. Ethan almost said no. Pride and caution warred in his chest. But Claire looked genuinely concerned, and the subway would be sketchy this time of night. Just to the subway entrance, he said. I can get home from there. The BMW smelled like leather and vanilla perfume. The seats were softer than his couch. Classical music played quietly from hidden speakers. They drove in silence through empty downtown streets. When Claire stopped at the subway entrance, neither of them moved to get out. Ethan, Claire said finally, what you did tonight, it was brave. It was the right thing to do. Not everyone would have seen it that way. Ethan looked at her profile in the glow of the streetlights. She was beautiful. but not in the cold, untouchable way he'd expected. There was something real underneath the polish, something vulnerable. "I've been blamed before," he said, "for things I didn't do. But I'm tired of staying quiet when I know something's wrong." Claire turned to face him. "I'm sorry that happened to you. It's not your fault." "Maybe not, but I'm still sorry." The words were simple, but they hit deep. When was the last time someone had apologized for his pain without trying to fix it or explain it away? "I should go," he said. "Yeah." But neither of them moved. The moment stretched between them, fragile and charged. Finally, Ethan opened the door. "Good night, Claire." "Good night." He walked toward the subway entrance without looking back, but he could feel her watching until he disappeared down the stairs. On the train home, Ethan stared at his reflection in the dark window. Tonight had changed something. He could feel it in his bones. For years, he'd made himself invisible, kept his head down, stayed in his lane. It was safer that way. But Claire Whitmore had looked at him like he mattered, like his voice was worth hearing. Whatever happened next, he wasn't going to forget that feeling. At home, in his small apartment, Ethan sat on his couch and stared at the ceiling. His phone buzzed with a text from his sister Janelle. "Rent due Thursday. You good?" He typed back, "Yeah, I'm good." But as he tried to fall asleep, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just taken a turn he wasn't prepared for. 3 floors above the city streets, Claire Whitmore stood at her penthouse window with a cup of tea growing cold in her hands. She kept thinking about Ethan's eyes when he'd said, "I've been blamed before." There had been pain there, and dignity, and a kind of quiet strength she rarely saw in her world of boardrooms and profit margins. He could have walked away tonight. Most people would have. But he'd risked his job, maybe his safety, to warn her about the break-in. Why? Claire had spent most of her life around people who wanted something from her: money, access, approval. But Ethan hadn't asked for anything. He'd just done what was right. Her phone buzzed with an email notification. She ignored it. Tomorrow, she'd have to deal with the break-in and whatever investigation followed. She'd have to face the possibility that someone was using her mistake to destroy her. But tonight, for just a few more minutes, she wanted to hold on to the memory of sitting in her office with Ethan Brooks. Talking to someone who saw her as a person, not just a title or a bank account. Someone who'd looked at her with respect instead of expectation. Someone who'd called her Claire. Tuesday morning arrived too fast. Ethan's alarm buzzed at 6 a.m., but he'd been awake for hours. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Claire's face in the glow of the BMW's dashboard lights. The way she'd looked at him. The way she'd said his name. He pulled on his work uniform and checked his phone. No messages. What had he expected? A text from the CEO of a major company? The morning news played softly from his small TV as he made coffee. Stock prices, weather, traffic reports. Nothing about break-ins at corporate offices. Claire had kept it quiet, just like she said she would. His phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Ethan? This is Claire, Claire Whitmore." His hand tightened around the phone. Her voice sounded different in daylight, more careful, more distant. "I wanted to call before you heard it anywhere else. We're having a board meeting this morning about last night. You'll probably be contacted by security to give a formal statement." "Okay," Ethan said slowly. "Is everything all right?" A pause. "I don't know yet. But I wanted you to know, whatever happens, I meant what I said. I'll speak up for you." Something warm spread through his chest. "Thank you. I should go. The meeting starts in an hour." "Claire?" "Yes?" "Be careful." Another pause, softer this time. "You too, Ethan." Claire sat in the boardroom, hands folded on the polished table. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, but the room felt cold. Her father, Graham Whitmore, sat at the head of the table in his usual spot. Board members filled the other chairs. All men except for her. Miles Hart sat directly across from her. He looked perfect as always, expensive suit, confident smile, not a hair out of place. If she hadn't seen the phone case with his vendor's logo, she never would have suspected him. "Let's get started," Graham said. "Claire, walk us through what happened." She kept her voice steady as she described the break-in. The hooded man, the photographed documents. She mentioned Ethan's warning, but kept the details simple. "And this maintenance worker," board member Richard Steele interrupted. "What's his background? Have we run a full check?" "His name is Ethan Brooks," Claire said. "He's been with the building for 6 months. Clean record. He's the one who alerted me to the intruder." Miles leaned forward. "That's convenient. A janitor just happens to spot this spy right when you arrive. Don't you think that's suspicious?" Claire's jaw tightened. "He saved me from a worse situation if he hadn't warned me." "Or he could have been working with the intruder," Miles continued smoothly. "Create a distraction while his partner gets away. These people often work in teams." These people. The words hit Claire like a slap. She stared at Miles, seeing him clearly for the first time. "What documents were targeted?" her father asked. Claire's throat went dry. The vendor realignment packet. Someone photographed part of it. Graham's eyes sharpened. Which part? This was it. The moment of truth. Claire could feel Miles watching her, waiting. "I'm not sure exactly, but we need to assume they got sensitive financial information." She couldn't bring herself to confess. Not here. Not like this. Not with Miles sitting there pretending to be concerned. "We should involve the police," Steele said. "Absolutely not," Graham replied firmly. "This stays internal. The last thing we need is bad publicity right before the Johnson merger." Miles nodded. "I agree, but we should definitely investigate this maintenance worker more thoroughly. Maybe bring in a private security firm." "That won't be necessary," Claire said quickly. Her father looked at her sharply. "Claire, your judgment might be clouded here. You were shaken up last night." "My judgment is fine," she said, her voice harder than she intended. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Claire could feel the weight of their stares. She was losing control of the narrative. Miles cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should take a break? Let emotions settle?" "Good idea," Graham said. "Claire, can I see you privately?" When the boardroom emptied, Graham closed the door and turned to his daughter. "What aren't you telling me?" Claire met his eyes. Her father had built this company from nothing. He was tough, smart, and he didn't miss much. "I think Miles is involved." Graham's eyebrows shot up. That's a serious accusation. The intruder dropped a phone case, Hart Financial Services, Miles's vendor. Could be coincidence, or planted evidence to throw suspicion on him. "Dad, you didn't hear the way he talked about Ethan in there. These people, like Ethan, was automatically guilty because," she stopped. "Because he's black?" Graham finished quietly. Claire nodded. "Miles wants to investigate Ethan instead of looking for the real spy. And Ethan saved me last night. He risked his job to warn me." Graham was quiet for a long moment. "You like this young man?" It wasn't a question. Claire felt heat rise in her cheeks. "This isn't about that." "Isn't it?" Graham studied her face. "Claire, I've watched you navigate this business for years. You're usually ice cold in a crisis, but you're emotional about this. Why?" Because Ethan looked at her like she mattered as a person, not just as the boss's daughter. Because he'd risked everything to protect her. Because he'd called her Claire. "Because it's the right thing to do," she said finally. Graham nodded slowly. "All right, but be careful. If Miles is dirty, he's dangerous. And if you're wrong about the maintenance worker..." "I'm not wrong." "You'd better not be, because I won't let anyone hurt this company, not even you. Ethan was mopping the lobby floors when two men in dark suits approached him. Building security badges hung from their belts, but he'd never seen them before. Ethan Brooks? Yes. We need to ask you some questions about last night. Is there somewhere private we can talk? Marco looked up from the front desk. His expression was concerned, but not surprised. He'd probably been told this was coming. Use the small conference room on 3, Marco said. I'll cover the lobby. In the elevator, one of the men studied Ethan like he was a puzzle to solve. I'm Detective Morrison, private security. This is my partner, Detective Hayes. We're investigating the break-in. I already told security everything last night. We know, but some new questions have come up. The conference room was small and windowless. Morrison set a digital recorder on the table. Tell us about your relationship with Claire Whitmore. I don't have a relationship with her. I clean the building, she runs the company. But you spoke with her privately last night, for quite a while. She wanted to know what I saw, I told her. Hayes leaned forward. How long have you been planning this? Planning what? The break-in. Did your partner get what you needed? Ethan's hands went cold. I don't have a partner, I stopped a break-in. Come on, Ethan. We know how these things work. Guy on the inside provides access, keeps watch, creates a distraction. Your buddy gets in and out clean. You both get paid. That's not what happened. Then why were you on the executive floor so late? Your shift log says you usually finish the 15th floor by 10 p.m. Ethan's throat tightened. They'd done their homework. I was behind schedule. Had to fix a jammed vacuum. Convenient. What's your financial situation like, Ethan? Any debts? Family problems? I want to call a lawyer. Morrison smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. You're not under arrest. This is just a friendly conversation. But if you want a lawyer up, that tells us something, doesn't it? The room felt smaller. Ethan thought about his sister Janelle's warning 3 years ago. They don't need proof. They just need someone to blame. I told you what happened. I don't have anything else to say. Hayes closed his notebook. We'll be in touch. Don't leave town. Claire paced her office, checking her phone every few minutes. She'd heard about the security interview through the building grapevine. Marco had called her personally to let her know. Her assistant, Diane, knocked and entered. Ms. Whitmore, the security team wants to brief you on their findings. Send them in. Morrison and Hayes entered. Behind them, Miles Hart appeared in the doorway. Miles, this is a private briefing. Your father asked me to sit in. As CFO, I need to understand the financial exposure. Claire's stomach nodded, but she nodded. What did you find? Morrison opened his folder. Brooks has a criminal record. Arrested for theft 3 years ago at his previous job. Charges were dropped, Claire said quickly. Drop doesn't mean innocent. His supervisor at the time said Brooks was acting suspicious for weeks before the theft. What supervisor? Hayes checked his notes. Tom Brennan, office manager at Meridian Properties. Miles nodded gravely. I know Tom. Good man. Very thorough. Something cold settled in Claire's chest. Miles knew Ethan's former supervisor? There's more, Morrison continued. Brooks has significant debt, behind on rent. Sister has medical bills from cancer treatment. He needed money. That doesn't make him guilty of anything. No, but it gives him motive. And his story has holes. Says he was behind schedule, but the vacuum he claimed was broken? Maintenance logs show it was serviced that morning and working fine. Claire felt the walls closing in. Someone had set this up perfectly, too perfectly. I want to see those maintenance logs. Claire, Miles said gently. I know this is hard. You want to believe the best in people. But the evidence is pretty clear. What evidence? Some old arrest and a supposedly broken vacuum? Hayes pulled out a plastic bag. Inside was a keycard. We found this in Brooks's locker, executive floor access. How did a maintenance worker get that? Claire stared at the card. Her world tilted. That's impossible. Is it? You said yourself the intruder had a keycard. Maybe Brooks gave it to him, then kept a copy. Or maybe someone planted it there. The words came out louder than she intended. The room went silent. Miles looked concerned. Claire, you're getting emotional again. That's understandable, but don't tell me I'm emotional. She stood up, anger blazing through her. And don't patronize me. Morrison and Hayes exchanged glances. Miles held up his hands in a calming gesture. Nobody's attacking you. We're just following the evidence. What about the phone case? Hart Financial Services? Your vendor? Miles didn't even blink. We checked that out. The case was reported stolen from our office 2 weeks ago. Filed a police report and everything. Obviously, whoever planned this wanted to frame me. Claire felt like she was drowning. Every piece of evidence pointed away from Miles and toward Ethan. It was too neat, too perfect. I need time to think. Of course, Miles said. But Claire, we should probably suspend Brooks pending a full investigation. For everyone's safety. He hasn't been charged with anything. But he has access to the building, to your office. What if he comes back? Morrison nodded. It's standard procedure in cases like this. Claire looked around the room, 3 men staring at her, waiting for her to fold, to give them what they wanted. She thought about Ethan's eyes when he'd said, "I've been blamed before." "No," she said quietly. "Excuse me?" "I said no, Ethan Brooks is not suspended, not based on this evidence." Miles's mask slipped just a fraction. For a split second, something cold and angry flashed across his face. Then it was gone, replaced by concern. "I think you should talk to your father about this. I think this meeting is over." After they left, Claire sat alone in her office as the sun set outside her windows. Her hands were shaking. Either she was protecting an innocent man, or she was falling for the biggest lie of her life. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "If you want the truth, meet me at Riverside Diner on 5th Street, 9 p.m. Come alone. E." Claire stared at the message. Meeting Ethan now would look terrible if anyone found out. It would seem to confirm every suspicion about their relationship. But she had to know. She had to look him in the eye and ask him directly. At 8:45 p.m., Claire drove through the city to a part of town she rarely visited. The Riverside Diner was exactly what it sounded like. A small, worn-down place with cracked vinyl booths and fluorescent lights that flickered. Ethan sat in a corner booth, hands wrapped around a coffee cup. He looked tired, worried. When he saw her, something like relief crossed his face. Claire slid into the booth across from him. "This is crazy. If anyone sees us..." "They already think I'm guilty. Meeting you won't change that." "Are you?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. Ethan went very still. "Do you think I am?" Claire looked into his eyes. The same eyes that had held so much pain when he'd talked about being blamed before. The same eyes that had looked at her like she mattered. "No, but they have evidence." "Planted evidence. That key card wasn't mine. I've never seen it before." "How do I know that?" Ethan leaned forward. "Because if I was working with that guy, why would I warn you? I could have just let him finish and leave. Nobody would have known until the next day." The logic was sound. Claire felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. "Then who's doing this to you?" "Same person who's doing it to you, Miles Hart." "Why would Miles want to hurt me?" Ethan hesitated. "What was in that vendor packet, the part he photographed?" Claire's throat tightened. She hadn't told anyone the full truth. Not her father, not the board, not even Ethan. "Claire, if you want me to help you, I need to know what we're really dealing with." She looked around the diner. An elderly couple shared pie at the counter. A waitress refilled coffee cups. Normal people living normal lives. not corporate intrigue and planted evidence. 6 months ago, I altered financial projections to make them look better. I was scared the board would panic if they saw the real numbers. So I smoothed them out. Miles knows about this? He might suspect. He handles a lot of the financial reporting. So he gets proof of what you did, uses it to blackmail you or force you out, and becomes the hero who saved the company from the corrupt CEO. Claire nodded slowly. But why frame you? Because I saw him, or saw his guy. I can identify the spy. Ethan's face hardened. And because I'm easy to blame. Ex-con, black, poor. The perfect fall guy. Claire felt sick. I'm sorry. For what? For the world being like this, for people like Miles. For not standing up stronger in that meeting today. Ethan reached across the table and touched her hand. It was the first time he'd ever touched her. His skin was warm and calloused from work. You're standing up now. That's what matters. They sat in silence for a moment, hands touching across the worn Formica table. What do we do now? Claire asked. We prove Miles is dirty, and we clear both our names. How? Ethan smiled for the first time all day. We catch him in the act. Wednesday night, Claire sat in her BMW outside Ethan's apartment building, hands gripping the steering wheel. The plan they'd made seemed crazy in daylight, but it was their only chance. Her phone buzzed, text from Ethan. Ready, building manager just left, coast is clear. Claire locked her car and walked toward the entrance. The neighborhood was rough around the edges, cracked sidewalks, bars on some windows, the sound of sirens in the distance. It was a world away from her penthouse. Ethan met her at the front door. He wore jeans and a dark t-shirt instead of his uniform. She'd never seen him in regular clothes before. He looked younger, more vulnerable. You sure about this? He asked as they climbed the stairs. No, but I'm sure about you. The words surprised them both. Ethan stopped at the second-floor landing and turned to look at her. Claire, I know this is crazy. I know we've only known each other 3 days. But I trust you more than people I've worked with for years. Ethan's expression softened. Same here. They stared at each other in the dim stairwell. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Then a door slammed somewhere above them, breaking the spell. Come on, Ethan said. My sister's waiting. Ethan's apartment was small but clean. A couch, a TV, a tiny kitchen. Family photos on the walls. Ethan with a woman who had his eyes and smile. His sister, Janelle. Janelle looked up from her laptop as they entered. She was beautiful in a fierce way, with short, natural hair and intelligent eyes that missed nothing. So you're the CEO, she said, not getting up. I'm Claire. I know who you are. Question is, do you know who you are? Ethan shot his sister a warning look. Janelle. It's okay, Claire said. She has every right to be suspicious. Janelle studied Claire for a long moment. My brother's been screwed over by powerful people before. White people who smiled at his face and stabbed him in the back. I'm not going to hurt him. You might not mean to, but you will. You live in different worlds. The words stung because they held truth. Claire had grown up with everything. Private schools, summer homes, trust funds. Ethan had fought for every opportunity. Maybe we do live in different worlds, Claire said quietly. But right now, we're fighting the same enemy. Janelle's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes. Tell me about this plan. Ethan pulled out his phone and showed them photos he'd taken that afternoon. Miles has been staying late every night this week, working on something. Tonight, he's scheduled to be in the office until 10 p.m. for a client call. How do you know that? Claire asked. Diane, she likes me, thinks I'm being treated unfairly. Claire felt a flash of gratitude toward her assistant, and maybe a tiny bit of jealousy. "So what's the plan?" Janelle asked. "I go to work like normal," Ethan said. "Clean the lower floors first, then work my way up." Claire shows up around 9:30 for forgotten documents. We watch Miles together, get proof of what he's really doing. "And if he's not doing anything wrong?" Claire and Ethan exchange glances. "Then I'm wrong about everything," Claire said, "and Ethan really is in trouble." Janelle closed her laptop. "This is dangerous. If Miles is setting up my brother, he won't hesitate to hurt you too." "I know. You could lose your job, your reputation, everything." "I know." Janelle looked at her brother, then back at Claire. "Why are you doing this?" Claire thought about the question. The honest answer was complicated. Part of it was justice. She hated seeing Ethan framed for something he didn't do. Part of it was guilt over her own mistakes. But there was something else, something deeper. Because it's right, and because... She looked at Ethan. Because he would do the same for me. Janelle was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "All right, but I'm coming too." "Absolutely not," Ethan said immediately. "You need backup, and if things go wrong, you need someone who can call for help." "Janelle, if you get caught..." "I won't get caught. I'll stay in the lobby with Marco, keep watch." Claire felt something warm in her chest. Family. This was what family looked like, people who had your back even when you were doing something crazy. "Okay," she said. "But at the first sign of trouble, you leave, both of you." Ethan shook his head. "We're in this together now." At 9 p.m., Ethan badged into the building like always. Marco waved from the front desk. "Evening, Ethan. Heard you had some excitement this week." Something like that. "Hey, my sister might stop by later. She's bringing me dinner." "No problem. I'll add her to the visitor list." Ethan took the service elevator to the 3rd floor and started cleaning, but his heart wasn't in it. Every sound made him jump. Every shadow could be Miles or his spy friend. At 9:20, his phone buzzed. Text from Claire. "In the parking garage, is he still there?" Ethan crept to the stairwell and climbed to the 15th floor. Light spilled from under Miles's office door. He could hear a voice, Miles talking to someone on the phone. Text back. "Yes, office light on the phone." At 9:30, Claire entered the lobby carrying a briefcase. She looked perfectly professional, just a CEO grabbing some work for home. "Evening, Ms. Whitmore," Marco said. "Working late again?" "You know how it is, never ends." She took the executive elevator to the 15th floor. The hallway was quiet except for the hum of air conditioning. Miles's voice carried faintly from behind his closed door. Claire texted Ethan. "I'm here. Where are you?" "Conference room. Come to the back entrance." Claire found Ethan crouched behind the conference room's side door. From this angle, they had a clear view down the hallway toward Miles's office. "Hear anything?" she whispered. "He's been on the phone for 20 minutes. Sounds angry." They waited in the shadows, shoulders touching. Claire could smell Ethan's soap, something simple and clean. It was oddly comforting. At 9:45, Miles's door opened. He stepped into the hallway, still talking on his phone. "I don't care what it costs. The board meeting is Friday. We need this finished before then." He walked toward the elevator bank, phone pressed to his ear. "Because she's getting suspicious. And that maintenance guy is a loose end we can't afford." Claire's blood went cold. That maintenance guy. They were talking about Ethan. Miles stopped at the elevator and pressed the button. "Fine, but make it look like an accident. The last thing we need is more questions." The elevator dinged. Miles stepped inside and the doors closed. Claire and Ethan stared at each other in horror. "Did he just order a hit on me? Yeah, I think so." Claire pulled out her phone. "We have to call the police." "And tell them what? We overheard half a conversation while hiding in a closet. That's not evidence." "Ethan, if he's planning to hurt you..." "Then we need proof, real proof." Ethan stood up and started walking toward Miles's office. "What are you doing?" "Looking for evidence. His office is locked." Ethan pulled out a keycard. "Not anymore." Claire stared at the card. "Where did you get that?" "Diane. She thinks Miles is framing me too." They stood outside Miles's office door. This was it, the point of no return. "If we do this, there's no going back," Claire said. "There's already no going back. Not for me." Ethan slid the keycard through the reader. The lock clicked open. Miles's office was bigger than Claire's, with a view of the city and expensive furniture. His desk was neat except for one thing, a file folder marked Confidential, Board Transition. Claire opened the folder with trembling hands. Inside were financial documents, email printouts, and photos. Photos of her altering the vendor reports 6 months ago. "Oh, God," she whispered. "He's been watching me for months." Ethan looked over her shoulder. "What else is in there?" Claire flipped through the pages. Email chains between Miles and someone named D. Crawford. Financial projections showing how the company would perform under new leadership. A timeline leading up to Friday's board meeting. And at the bottom, a contract. Crawford Security Services. Payment for surveillance and elimination of security threats. Elimination, Ethan read quietly. That's a nice way to put it. Claire felt sick. "Ethan, we have to get you out of here, out of the city." "I'm not running." "This isn't about pride. He's going to kill you." Ethan turned to face her. In the glow of the desk lamp, his eyes were determined. "And then what? He destroys you at the board meeting, takes over the company, gets away with everything." "I don't care about the company." The words hung in the air between them. Claire realized she meant them. For the first time in her life, something mattered more than Whitmore Interiors. "I care about you," she said quietly. Ethan stepped closer. "Claire. I know it's crazy. I know we barely know each other, but I can't lose you." Ethan reached up and touched her face. "You're not going to lose me. But we're doing this right. We're taking him down." Claire leaned into his touch. "How?" "We make copies of everything. Then we give him exactly what he wants." "I don't understand," Ethan smiled. "We let him think he's won. And then we spring our own trap." Claire started taking photos of the documents with her phone. "This is insane." "Yeah, but it might work." As she photographed the last page, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. They both froze. The footsteps stopped right outside Miles's door. A keycard beeped against the reader. Claire grabbed Ethan's hand. "The closet," she whispered. They dove into Miles's supply closet just as the office door opened. Through the crack in the closet door, they could see Miles enter with another man. Tall, dark suit, the same build as the hooded spy from Monday night. "You're sure the building's clear?" Miles asked. "Except for the janitor, but we'll handle him tonight." Miles sat down at his desk. "Good. After Friday's meeting, I want all loose ends tied up." "What about the girl?" "She'll be ruined, disgraced, probably facing criminal charges. She won't be a problem." In the closet, Claire felt Ethan's hand tighten around hers. She could feel his anger radiating through the darkness. The maintenance guy, though, he saw too much, and she trusts him. That makes him dangerous. "I said we'll handle it. Accident in the subway. Happens all the time." Claire had to bite her lip to keep from making a sound. They were planning Ethan's murder like it was a business transaction. "And you're sure your inside information is solid?" Miles chuckled. "Diane's been feeding me Claire's schedule and private information for months. She thinks she's protecting Claire from board pressure. Really, she's just making our job easier." Claire's heart sank. Diane. Sweet, loyal Diane, who'd worked for the company for 15 years. Miles had been using her too. The men talked for another 10 minutes about logistics and timing. Finally, they left. Claire and Ethan waited in the closet for 5 more minutes before emerging. Claire was shaking. "Did you get it all?" Ethan asked. Claire held up her phone. Voice recording app, everything. Smart thinking. They quickly put everything back exactly as they'd found it and left the office. In the elevator down to the lobby, they didn't speak. The weight of what they'd discovered was too heavy for words. Marco looked up as they approached the front desk. Janelle sat in a visitor chair, pretending to read a magazine. "All done for the night?" Marco asked. "Yeah," Ethan said. "See you tomorrow." If there was a tomorrow. In the parking garage, the three of them huddled around Claire's car. "So what now?" Janelle asked after they'd filled her in. "Now we go to the police," Claire said. "We have evidence, recordings." "Evidence we got by breaking into his office illegally," Ethan pointed out. "I don't care. This is about your life." Ethan took her hands in his. "Claire, listen to me. If we go to the police now, Miles will disappear. He'll destroy the evidence and vanish. We'll never be able to prove anything. So, what do you suggest?" "We let him make his move at Friday's board meeting, but we're ready for him." Janelle shook her head. "That's 2 days away. 2 days for him to kill you. He won't try anything before the meeting. He needs me alive so I can be his fall guy. It's after the meeting that I'm in real danger." Claire wanted to argue, but she could see the logic. "What exactly are you proposing?" "We turn the tables. Miles thinks he's going to expose you and frame me. Instead, we expose him. In front of the whole board." "With what evidence? We can't use anything we got tonight." Ethan smiled. "We get him to confess, on the record, with witnesses." Claire stared at him. "You want to confront a man who's planning to kill you?" "I want to beat him at his own game." Janelle looked between them. "You're both insane." Claire found herself nodding. "Maybe, but it might be our only chance." She looked at Ethan in the dim light of the parking garage. 3 days ago, he'd been a stranger. Now, he was willing to risk his life to save her company and her reputation. She was willing to risk hers to save his life. When had everything changed? "Okay," she said. "Friday it is. But promise me something." "What?" "If this goes wrong, if things get dangerous, you run. You forget about me and the company, and you just run." Ethan stepped closer. "I'm not forgetting about you." "Ethan." He kissed her, soft and quick, but enough to stop her words. When he pulled back, his eyes were serious. "We're in this together, all the way." Claire touched her lips, still feeling the warmth of his kiss. "All the way." Janelle cleared her throat. "If you two are done being romantic, we have a trap to plan." Friday morning arrived gray and cold. Claire stood at her penthouse window, watching the city wake up below. In 3 hours, she would walk into the most important board meeting of her life. Either she would expose Miles and save Ethan, or she would lose everything. Her phone buzzed. Text from Ethan. "Ready for this?" She typed back. "As ready as I'll ever be. You?" "Scared as hell, but ready." Claire smiled despite her nerves. 3 hours, then it would all be over, one way or another. She dressed carefully in her best suit, navy blue, professional, confident. Armor for the battle ahead. At her desk, she reviewed the plan one more time. The board meeting would start at 10 a.m. Miles would present his evidence against her. The photos, the altered documents, the planted story about Ethan being her accomplice. The board would demand her resignation in disgrace. But Claire had her own surprise waiting. At 9:30 a.m., board members began filing into the conference room. Claire watched them through her office window. These men had known her since she was a child, but business was business. If they thought she was corrupt, they would cut her loose without hesitation. Her father arrived last, his face grim. He caught sight of her through the window and nodded once. He still didn't know the full plan, but he'd agreed to trust her judgment. Miles walked past her office, briefcase in hand. He knocked on her door. "Ready for the meeting?" he asked, all concern and sympathy. "As ready as I can be." Miles studied her face. "You look tired. This whole situation with the break-in must be weighing on you." "You have no idea." He smiled. "Don't worry. After today, you'll be able to put all this behind you." The words sent a chill down her spine. He was so confident, so sure of his victory. "Miles, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Do you ever feel guilty about anything?" His smile never wavered. "Guilt is for people who can't see the bigger picture. Sometimes you have to make hard choices for the greater good." "The greater good, right. See you in there." After he left, Claire took a deep breath. She pulled out her phone and sent one text. "It's time." The boardroom was full when Claire entered. 8 men in expensive suits, all watching her with varying degrees of sympathy and suspicion. Miles sat at the far end of the table, his briefcase open in front of him. "Gentlemen," Graham said from the head of the table, "we all know why we're here. Miles has brought some concerning information to my attention regarding the Monday night break-in." Miles stood up. "Thank you, Graham. I want to start by saying how difficult this is for me. Claire and I have worked together for 3 years, but the evidence is too serious to ignore." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. 6 months ago, financial projections for the Johnson merger were altered. Numbers were changed to make our position look stronger than it actually was. Murmurs around the table. Claire kept her expression neutral. These alterations were made from Claire's computer using her access codes. The changes were subtle but significant. If the Johnson team had seen the real numbers, they might have walked away from the deal. Richard Steele leaned forward. "That's a serious accusation, Miles." "I know, which is why I documented everything." Miles pulled out photographs. These were taken by security cameras on the night of the alterations. Claire's heart sank as she saw herself clearly visible in the photos, working at her computer late at night. "And then," Miles continued, "when someone tried to expose this fraud, Claire conspired with a maintenance worker to stage a fake break-in, making it look like an outside attack when really they were trying to cover their tracks." More photos. Claire and Ethan talking in her office, their hands touching across the diner table. The two of them entering the building together Wednesday night. "I believe Claire has been paying Ethan Brooks to help her cover up the fraud. And when that plan started falling apart, they escalated to more desperate measures." Graham's face was stone. "Claire, what's your response to these allegations?" Claire stood up slowly. "My response is that Miles is absolutely right about one thing. The financial projections were altered." Shocked silence around the table. "I did change those numbers 6 months ago. I was scared and young, and I made a terrible mistake." Miles looked surprised. This wasn't how he'd expected her to react. "But," Claire continued, "Miles is wrong about everything else. I didn't stage a break-in. I didn't conspire with Ethan Brooks. And I certainly didn't pay him to help me." "Then how do you explain these photos?" Miles demanded. "Simple. You've been watching me for months, waiting for the right moment to strike. You hired someone to break into the building and photograph evidence of my mistake. And when Ethan Brooks interfered with your plan, you decided to frame him too." Miles laughed. "That's ridiculous. Why would I want to hurt you, Claire?" "Because you want my job. You want to run this company. And you figured destroying me was easier than earning it." "You're grasping at straws." Claire walked to the boardroom door and opened it. "Ethan, could you come in here, please?" Ethan entered, wearing his best clothes, a simple shirt and tie. He looked nervous but determined. Behind him came Janelle, carrying a laptop bag. Miles's confident expression faltered. "What is this?" "This is Ethan Brooks," Claire said, "the man who saved me from your spy on Monday night. The man you've been trying to frame and murder." Murder? Graham's voice was sharp. Claire, what are you talking about? Janelle opened her laptop and connected it to the boardroom's presentation screen. We have recordings, she said simply. The first recording played. Miles's voice filled the room. I don't care what it costs. The board meeting is Friday. We need this finished before then. Because she's getting suspicious. And that maintenance guy is a loose end we can't afford. Miles shot to his feet. This is fake, manufactured evidence. The second recording played. Miles and his accomplice planning Ethan's accident in the subway, discussing how to make it look realistic. Board members stared at Miles in horror. The recordings were made Wednesday night, Claire said. In your office, Miles, while you were planning how to destroy both of us. Miles's mask finally fell away, his handsome face twisted with rage. You have no idea what you've done. This company was dying under your leadership. I was trying to save it. By framing innocent people? By planning murder? By doing what needed to be done, Miles turned to the board. She admitted it herself. She altered financial documents. She's a criminal. Graham stood up slowly. Yes, she made a mistake, a serious one. But you, Miles, have committed crimes that go far beyond corporate fraud. Miles looked around the room, seeing only disgusted faces. You're all fools. This company will fail without strong leadership. He grabbed his briefcase and headed for the door. Ethan stepped into his path. Move, Miles snarled. I don't think so. Miles swung his briefcase at Ethan's head. Ethan ducked and grabbed Miles's wrist, using his momentum to send him crashing into the wall. Security! Graham called into his phone. Boardroom, now! Miles struggled to his feet, his perfect hair messed up, his expensive suit wrinkled. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Claire said quietly. Building security arrived and escorted Miles away. The room fell silent except for the hum of air conditioning. Finally, Graham spoke. Claire, we need to discuss your actions 6 months ago. I know. I'm prepared to face the consequences. But first, I want to say something. Graham looked around the table. My daughter made a mistake, a serious one. But when she discovered a real threat to this company, she didn't cover it up. She didn't run, she fought. And she was willing to risk everything to do what was right. He turned to Ethan. And you, young man, you could have walked away. Monday night, stayed invisible, stayed safe. But you chose to help someone in trouble, even though it put you in danger. Ethan nodded. It was the right thing to do, sir. Yes, it was. Graham looked back at Claire. The board will need time to discuss appropriate consequences for the document alterations. But as far as I'm concerned, you've proven yourself as a leader this week. 2 hours later, Claire and Ethan sat on a bench in the small park across from the office building. The board was still deliberating her fate, but she felt strangely peaceful. How are you feeling? Ethan asked. Relieved, scared, grateful. She turned to look at him. How about you? Like I can breathe again. They sat in comfortable silence, watching office workers hurry past on their lunch breaks. Ethan? Yeah? What happens now? I mean, between us. Ethan was quiet for a moment. I don't know. A week ago, I was invisible, just the guy who cleaned your office. Now, I'm in love with a woman who's way out of my league. Claire's heart skipped. Ethan. I know it's crazy. I know we're from different worlds. But this week changed me. You changed me. Claire took his hand. You changed me too. Before Monday night, I was just going through the motions, playing a part. But when I'm with you, I feel like myself. So what do we do about it? Claire smiled. We figure it out. Together, one day at a time. Her phone rang, her father. The board has reached a decision, Graham said. Can you come back up? Back in the boardroom, the atmosphere was different, less formal, more like family. "Claire," Richard Steele said, "the board has voted. You'll receive an official reprimand for the document alterations. You'll also be required to work with an independent financial oversight committee for the next year." Claire nodded. "Fair enough." "But," Steele continued, "we're also voting to keep you as CEO. Your actions this week showed the kind of leadership this company needs." Relief flooded through her. "Thank you. I won't let you down." Graham smiled. "We also have a recommendation for you. The board feels the company could benefit from a new director of security. Someone with proven integrity and courage." He looked at Ethan. "The job is yours if you want it. Good salary, full benefits, a chance to build a career." Ethan's eyes went wide. "Sir, I don't have the qualifications." "You have the most important qualification: character. The rest we can teach you." 6 months later, Claire stood at her office window, watching the sunrise paint the city gold. The Johnson merger had gone through successfully, with honest numbers this time. The company was stronger than ever. A knock at her door made her turn. Ethan entered, wearing a sharp suit and carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Morning, boss," he said with a grin. "Morning, Director Brooks." He handed her a coffee and kissed her cheek. They'd been taking things slow, building their relationship on the foundation of trust they'd forged during that crazy week. No rushing, no pressure, just honest affection growing stronger each day. "Sleep well?" she asked. "Like a baby, you?" "Same," she smiled. "Amazing what a clear conscience will do." Ethan moved to stand beside her at the window. "Any regrets?" Claire thought about the question. The past 6 months had been challenging. Learning to work with oversight, rebuilding trust with clients, navigating the complications of dating an employee, though HR had cleared it since they'd met before his promotion. But she'd never felt more grounded, more authentic, more herself. "None," she said. "You?" Ethan slipped his arm around her waist. "Just one. That's that. I wish I'd asked you out that first night, instead of waiting for a corporate conspiracy to bring us together." Claire laughed. "You think I would have said yes? To the maintenance guy asking out the CEO? Probably not." "You might be surprised." She turned in his arms. "I noticed you before that night, you know. The way you worked, how you treated people, how you made me feel safe just by being there." "Really?" "Really. I just didn't know how to bridge that gap between us. Different worlds and all that." Ethan smiled. "Good thing a spy broke into your office then. Good thing a brave man decided to speak up instead of staying invisible." They kissed as the sun climbed higher over the city, painting everything in warm golden light. Outside, the world was waking up to another day. Inside, 2 people who'd found love in the most unexpected place held each other close and looked toward the future. Miles Hart had been sentenced to 5 years in prison for conspiracy, fraud, and attempted murder. His accomplice had taken a plea deal and testified against him. Diane had been devastated to learn how she'd been manipulated, but she'd kept her job and earned Claire's forgiveness. Janelle had become a regular at family dinners. Because that's what they were now, family. Different backgrounds, different colors, different experiences, but bound together by love and respect and the kind of loyalty that only comes from facing darkness together and choosing light. It wasn't always easy. There were still whispers sometimes, still raised eyebrows and uncomfortable questions. The world wasn't perfect. But love was stronger than whispers, trust was more powerful than prejudice, and 2 people who'd learned to see past surfaces to the heart underneath had built something real and lasting and beautiful. "I love you," Claire whispered against Ethan's lips. "I love you too," he whispered back. And in the quiet of that perfect morning, with the whole world spread out below them and their future bright with possibility, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, just like they had from the very beginning, just like they always would.